I would say that I came out a lot better than I probably would have had I not had your program. In one of our last mediations, we were talking about attorney's fees. She wanted about $45,000. I had spent far less than that, and I was willing to give her about not even a third of that. And the mediator looked at it. Her attorney was very adamant. I just responded back, well, it took me 3 times to get any kind of information about her actual assets. And I'm still not sure that I've got a complete picture of her assets, but I don't want to go through anymore. And this is how much it's cost me to do it. This is how much I'm willing to pay, which was about what I had paid.
And that was like a third or a quarter?
It was about a third of what she was asking for. And the mediator looked at it and went, can you bump it up to an even number? I went, I can do that. As soon as that happened, boy, her attorney started to move things quickly.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Negotiate Your Best Life. I'm so excited today because you are going to be inspired, you're going to be moved, you're going to be empowered when you listen to Glenn Austin's story. It's nothing short of remarkable. He's been through heartbreak, devastation, and now to triumph and freedom. And so many of you are going to resonate with his story. He is a brilliant mind in the tech industry. He spent years as the guy behind the scenes, and he really enjoyed making other people shine. But life threw him a curveball, as it often does. He lost his first wife to cancer, and here he was being a single dad, and he thought, okay, I'm going to step back out into the waters. And he remarried somebody else who he thought was going to be a person of his dreams, and it turned into pure hell, as we all know this story, right? And he's now thriving. He escaped. He's living his beautiful life, but how did he do it? We're going to find out more about that today. So welcome, Glenn, and thank you for offering to share your story.
Not a problem. If my story helps somebody else get through this challenge of being in a relationship with a narcissist, then great.
Then it wasn't all for naught then, right?
Well, it wasn't all for naught, but if it helps somebody else see that there's a possibility of moving on, then that's a good thing.
Totally, yeah. So I want to go back to the beginning because I think so often what happens, where we fall prey to becoming prey to narcissists, which I've definitely am in that category. It kind of starts in childhood, right? And so you describe yourself as the person who's always sort of been behind the scenes, loving to make other people shine. Where do you think that came from?
When I was growing up, I was not the biggest kid in the school, but I was one of the smartest kids in school. So I got picked on a lot.
Mm.
So helping other kids shine provided maybe some protectors in my mind,
Hmm.
somebody who might be able to stand up for me.
Mm. So you kind of develop almost like a people pleasing, I think. I mean, I was bullied as a kid as well. And I think that you almost it's a pleaser sort of a thing, like, hey, this is how I can be likable, right? This is how I can be accepted by just pleasing. Is that fair to say?
That's pretty fair to say. I mean, the teasing was pretty bad, but it's led me to be able to do some things that I didn't think I would ever be able to do.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that because, I think that we always can take our pain and turn it into our purpose. I know what happens sometimes with situations like that, though, is you think if I could just work harder, be smarter, if it did, then I'll show them how valuable I am, right? But when you're dealing with a narcissist, it there's this black hole that can never be filled, so you can never show them It can never be enough. So, you got married the first time and tell us, you lost your first wife to cancer.
That was pretty devastating. I had
Yeah.
a preteen and a teen. Um, 7 years earlier, she'd been in an auto accident, pretty serious.
Oh,
Um, but she was home that night, and we thought that was a blessing. And honestly, when I went and took pictures of the truck after it was in the wrecking yard, I could just see how the energy of the accident just kind of flowed around the driver's seat. And I could see her foot, the imprint of her foot in the carpet.
that's
But
crazy.
it was really unusual. Her glasses were up on the dashboard, the airbag had deployed and such. The the investigations kind of downplayed the other person because we lived in an area where there was a definite divide between the old school folks and the new folks who were in tech.
So, when you're saying you saw her energy there, tell me more about that. Like, I want to know more about that, the energy in the driver's seat. That's so interesting to me.
It was very weird. It's just kind of this almost shape of a teardrop of where the the damage was around her, and yet the steering wheel was, other than the airbag being deployed, it was in the same place. The driver's seat was in the same place. Yet the door to her left, her driver's door, was bent almost in the bars were bent almost 90 degrees. It was
Wow.
pretty severe impact. The other gal spent several weeks in the hospital.
Mm. And how do you think that impacted your wife?
Well, one of the things was that she developed some food allergies,
Mm.
which is noted in severe cases of accidents.
Hmm.
But when she later got her cancer, the cancer was not low in her cervix, it was high, right where the seatbelt crossed her lap.
Oh, wow.
And when we went for the later check to see if the cancer had metastasized, the cancer was in her breastbone, behind where the belt was, and in her shoulder.
Oh my gosh, that is so crazy. And how old was she when she passed?
She was 48.
48. Oh my gosh,
I was 49.
that is so devastating. And you had young boys?
I have a son and a daughter. The
Okay,
daughter was preteen
okay.
when my wife passed away, when their mother passed away. My son was 16.
Mm.
So he was able to drive, and his mother got to see him drive and such, but she wasn't really able to go. By that time, she wasn't really able to go do much unless I was in the car with her.
Wow. So you lose the love of your life, and then you finally pull the pieces together to think about dating. And
Well,
tell me more about.
that was an interesting thing. Not a lot of people know this, but as my kids and I were driving away from the hospital after her being pronounced dead, um, we were all just kind of in shock. And I just told my kids, well, if God can turn his own son's death into a victory, what can he do for us? We're just going to continue
Wow.
to look forward, and we're not going to dwell on the past that we can't change.
Wow, that's so beautiful that you were able to even start thinking about the positive then.
Well, it was more about avoiding the negative.
Mm. Yeah, but that's some hallmark of successful people is when they think how can I turn this around? How can I make this happen? Rather than I'm stuck in the why did it happen to me, the victim side of things, which, you could have easily done in that situation.
I don't play victim well.
I love that. So, when you decide to step your toe into the dating pool, and how did that go?
I really didn't have a choice. My daughter, who is very outspoken, I spent the 2 weeks after my wife passed away crying every night.
Yeah.
Um, my daughter's like, okay, you said that we were going to just move forward. You need to step up and show us that you meant what you said. So I started dating. Didn't go really well because I was
Good
still kind
morning.
of shattered.
Yeah.
Well, I had the 54 weeks from the time that she was diagnosed until she passed away, and then really, I mean, the last 8 months, um, mourning the loss without letting it affect the fact that I was taking care of her and trying to do everything I could to make her survive.
Wow. So, how did you then come upon meeting your second wife?
Well, it was online dating. Um, she had a profile that seemed very, very good. She claimed to be uh, a Christ follower, and we met for a couple of lunch dates, and on the I think the third lunch date, she asked me about my late wife, and this is almost a year after really um, I lost her.
Mhm.
Um, so and at that question, I just lost it. Um, I just couldn't. I was a mess.
Yeah.
Um, and as I'm walking back to my office after the lunch date, I'm going, "You're trying to attract women, not drive them away."
Not repel them. Oh,
But
so then what happened?
I mean, she showed the compassion and such towards what I was going through. Um, and she was interested in a having a quote unquote real date, um, one where I would pick her up and take her out, not someplace where we had met. Lunch dates were good. We got to talk, but it didn't give a lot away of where we lived and what we drove and those kinds of things. And so once again, thinking of her, thinking of, okay, well, what's a good way to meet without giving a whole lot away and keep her feeling safe?
Hmm.
So we finally did go on um, the evening date, and I'd set up dinner at a place where I kind of knew where she liked. She liked seafood, and so we went to a seafood restaurant and got a chance to sit kind of where not at the window, but next to next row over. And then we went out and just kind of drove around and talked.
And
Um,
did she seem like she was the perfect person at that point, or?
Absolutely the perfect person. I mean, she was compassionate to where I was at. She was interested in trying to make a relationship work with me, not seeming to want to change me, which that was nice.
Yeah, and so when did you start to see signs that things were maybe not what they seemed?
Well, we had gotten engaged um, pretty quickly because she seemed like the perfect person. Um,
Now, was she the one that brought up getting engaged quickly? Like,
I
did
did.
she seem to be pushing for the
I,
next level?
I was actually the one who was interested in locking her down and taking her off the market, basically,
Okay.
um, because of some other interactions that we had. Like one of the, I lived about 25, 30 miles away, which where we were living at the time was about a 2 hour commute each way.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So she offered for at least one night a week, that I could stay at her place. Okay, I can stay at her place in her guest room or on the couch or something like that. And she she said, "Oh, no, no, you don't have to sleep on the couch. You can sleep in with me." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And okay, you can kind of figure out kind of where that ended up, but I was not entirely 100% in favor of it, but I certainly wasn't against it. I'm a guy.
Yeah. And so what happened after you got engaged then? Now, how long between when you met and when you got engaged?
It was about 5 or 6 months, I think.
Okay. All right. And then what happens right after you get engaged?
Well, I asked her to come over for Valentine's Day for dinner.
Hmm.
So she had the 2 hour commute out to my place. Uh, and as she was on her way there to my place, I realized I had forgotten to pick up some mushrooms for dinner. So I called her and said, hey, if you could you just stop at the store right there at the corner and pick up some mushrooms? And oh my gosh, you would have thought that I had asked her um, to to step out of her car, strip off her clothes, and run around it. It's like the no was, oh my gosh, the reaction was just unbelievable.
So she wouldn't
She
do
got
it?
wouldn't do it. She got to
Wow.
my
What
house.
did she say? Like, what did she say?
She said, I don't like shopping. It's like, no, I don't. You've never told me this, but
And shopping, it's just one thing.
and it was one thing, and it's in a grocery store where that one thing was right at the front of the store. So, and then when she got to my house, she didn't even really talk to me. She just came in and went upstairs to the bedroom.
Oh my God.
We were going to have, play some family games with my kids and have dinner, and she just bailed on that.
All because you asked her to get mushrooms on the way home. Oh my,
All because I asked her to get mushrooms on the way to my place.
wow. But you ended up marrying her anyway.
Yeah, the red flag. I didn't pay attention to the red flags because she'd been married for 30 years previously. Okay, here's one red flag I should have seen. I would be marriage for.
Mm.
But the previous marriage was 28 years, which was about as long as my marriage to my first wife. Um, just I thought, okay, well, maybe it was um, just she just had bad luck with the first two marriages, and the next marriage was just, you know, not a great fit. And she'd been single for some time during the end of that marriage.
Hmm.
So I thought maybe it's just, okay, she's not used to having someone around.
Have you ever met somebody, they started off to be the most charming, charismatic person you've ever met in your life. Then they turned out to be your worst nightmare. And then when you go to negotiate with them, they're a living hell. Well, I developed something called the Slay Method of Negotiating with Narcissists, and it has helped tens of thousands of people in more than 150 countries win, go from feeling drained and defeated to getting the outcomes they want. And the reason why it works is because I spent more than 20 years studying narcissism as a trial attorney, and now I'm here to help you win too, and also take your suffering and turn it into your superpower. Take your pain and turn it into profit, peace, and purpose as a highly specialized high conflict negotiation coach. If you want to learn how to do it, then just go to RebeccaZung.com/apply and I will show you how. Yeah. Okay. So what were some of the other red flags? Because I think this is important for people to hear, when they ignore red flags. So what were some of the other red flags that you ignored? And this is so common, I just want to say, because I mean, I even did this myself in certain situations where um, you end up rationalizing it for them. Well, they had a difficult childhood. Well, they had a bad week. Well, they didn't mean it. Well, maybe I shouldn't have asked that, or maybe the way I came across was overbearing, or da da da, so there's so many times that we ignore red flags for a variety of reasons. But I've asked this on my Instagram and my Facebook groups before, like, what were some of the red flags that you know, you neglected to see at the beginning, but you definitely saw at the beginning?
Well, one was certainly her reaction to stopping to pick up some mushrooms. Another was that when we were talking about getting engaged, she's like, "You don't want to marry me. You really don't want to marry me."
No.
Um, and she kept going back to um, verses where, a woman who is divorced should remain divorced. Um, it, there were a lot of things. I mean, the fact that she invited me into her bedroom on our effectively would have been our second time together in an official way. That should have been a huge red flag.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, there were other things too, is that she didn't always treat my kids very well. She
Oh.
definitely had problems with my son.
Mm.
Uh, but she had no daughters in her family, so my daughter was like, "Ooh, I can make her a princess." But just little things about how she treated my daughter.
Mm. Interesting. Okay. So you get married, and then what happens?
Well, we get married, and for the first year or so, we're actually living. She's still working in Seattle. I'm now in the Bay Area, working. I and my kids are living in my motorhome at the time, which was an experience. And she would fly down and spend the weekends with us, which was great. I mean, everything was going well. And then we got a house. We found a house, bought it, and as soon as we found the house, the mask fell off.
Mm.
She started treating both kids really, like, very badly.
In what way? Were they like intruders in the house, or she just
Effectively.
she didn't want to say hello to them or interact with them in what way?
A lot of negative comments
Okay.
um, about the kids. My son by that time was out of high school, and she was like, "Well, I was out of my dad's house the day after I graduated high school. I don't understand why you're not out of the house." She basically drove him out of the house.
She said that right to him, not even just to you, right to
Said
him.
that right to him.
Oh my goodness.
And then
Was she paying for half the house or?
I was because she was working in Seattle, we couldn't use any of her income other than as a gift. and the gift she gave me was actually from her father. So
Okay.
she did not have to put any money into the house.
Okay.
And
Did she contribute to the expenses or anything?
she contributed to some of the expenses, but not a lot. She covered utilities and such, and I was paying the mortgage because it was my name on the mortgage.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Okay. And so did she become abusive toward you as well?
She did start to become abusive towards me. It's like all of a sudden the okay, well, let's go do something is all of a sudden, yeah, I'm going to bed. Okay, well, I'll join you. No, just I'm going to bed. You stay up and do whatever you want.
Mm.
Those words.
Was it like super moody? Do you think that she had some kind of mood disorder or anything like that? Or, I mean, or was it tied to anything?
It was tied to the fact that we were living in this is uh, my reading on it. I understand that because I'm in computers and having to work with people and computer and human interaction, I studied psychology. So watching her behavior change went from she's eager to see me to
Mm. Mm-hmm. And and so what caused like the straw to break the camel's back? I mean, what was the thing?
well, things just went downhill from there. The straw that broke the camel's back was that um, her dad came to live with us. He was ill. Um, it was a time period where she would just bail and go to work, fly to Seattle and go to work and leave him with me. And he was a good guy. He really was a good guy. Um, but I think he saw what his daughter was doing and had seen it before, and I think he kind of felt sorry for me.
Did
But
he end up passing?
he did.
Oh.
Um, and it was while I was gone on the one trip that I took while he was ill.
Mm.
Meanwhile, she had left and gone multiple times to go work in Seattle. And then when I was gone, she wanted help, so she recruited her cousin, her male cousin, um, to come and stay at the house with my daughter and a couple of her friends, so that she'd have some help to watch over him. And she didn't. She refused to let him sleep on the couch or on the cushions. She's like, he can sleep in your place,
Mm.
in our bed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but nothing happened. Yeah, uh-huh. Sure.
So what was the moment that you were like, I need a way out. This is stopping right now.
It was actually before that. I realized that when she went after my daughter
Mm-hmm.
for when she was in late her senior year in high school and um, and first portion of college, she started really going after my daughter to the point where my daughter's like, I'm just going to stay in my room. I'm just going to avoid you. Just stay away from me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's no good for a kid, right? So,
No,
how did you come across the sleigh program then?
I came across the Slate program because, well, as I said, being in computers, I was doing human computer interactions. So I'd studied some psychology, some behavioral psychology. And when I changed jobs a year after buying the house, I moved into more of a security role. And because security deals with people who have ulterior motives, I started studying sociology, sociopathy, and psychopathy.
Mhm.
which is right. I recognized immediately as I was studying that. It's like, oh, this is
That's what
going,
this is.
this is not moodiness.
Yeah.
This is abuse.
Hmm.
I mean, spiritual abuse, financial abuse. Um, she never hit me, but she withdrew any kind of being together.
Hmm.
Um, she and of course emotionally and just she would compare me constantly to her cousin, her male cousin, that she had feelings for more than just as a cousin.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, well, New York it's illegal, in California it's legal.
Oh, okay. Things you never thought you'd need to know.
And in Washington state it's illegal too, but okay, whatever. We were living in California at the time.
Ooh, but yeah.
Um,
Okay.
but when she was on one of her work trips, um, I picked her up at the airport and brought her back to the house, not this house, but brought her back to the house, and then I'd take her to the airport for when she flew out. So I had access to her airline account. She gave me access, so I got on there and um, to check to see what trips she had planned, and well, she had trips planned that she hadn't told me about.
Oh,
And when I started putting them in, I put them in a calendar that was shared with her. She called and was just absolutely livid. Why are you in my flight account? What? It was just, once again, the reaction was way over
like,
the top.
why would that be a secret?
Yeah, well, you
When you're
know,
married to each other, why would your travel plans be a secret?
and they shouldn't be. I found out she took a 2 week trip over to spend that with her cousin. So it just was, things were getting weird.
Hmm.
Uh, we went to small group um, on the 21st of October, 2020. 2020? Yeah, 2021, sorry. And there was a question asked about something, and I answered it. And her response was, well, you know, the Holy Spirit and God are the same thing. And, in front of everybody. And one of the leaders looked it up and went, Glenn's right. Those are two different things between a gift and a talent. And so we went home after that. I was kind of miffed just because she questioned it. She questioned me in front of a bunch of people. Um, so as she was doing something in the kitchen, I went in there and said, we need to have a talk.
Hmm.
And she's like, okay. I said, first thing, I need to set some ground rules. No more secrets, no more lies. We cannot build a relationship if we're keeping secrets from each other and we're telling each other lies. And she just looked like a deer in the headlights. And I said it just about that way. Um, she then, the truth will set you free. I said, yes, it will. And the truth is, you are a liar.
Hmm.
And it's just like, I basically set the boundaries that should have set years ago, but I didn't have to with my late wife.
Yeah, and you were married to her for a long time. So, did you find me on YouTube or how did that go?
I I actually found some of your stuff on Facebook and
Mhm.
then directed me to your um, to your divorce, your SLAY program for divorce.
Mm.
And that was once I had that, and that goes back to when I had first figured out who she was.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked it up because I was willing to work on it, but it meant that she was going to have to recognize where she was.
Mm-hmm.
And the counseling that we had been through through our church, she had just blamed me for everything. Everything that was wrong in the marriage was my fault. And the counselors either didn't say anything or just looked at me and said, "Okay, Glenn, you need to do some work." Things like, "Oh, you're selfish in the relationship." I took care of a terminally ill wife for 54 weeks. Selfish is not necessarily in my dictionary.
Yeah, well, it's usually that they're calling you what they are, right? So
Yeah.
tell us how you use the tools in the program to then outmaneuver or get where you wanted to go.
Well, one of the things is that I had bought a webcam while her dad was ill so that she could check up on him when she was in Seattle. I could check, I could check to see how he was doing without sitting in the room with him, so I could actually get some work done. And when he passed away, I moved that camera to the garage. Okay, so the idea was, okay, watch the garage because I had some stuff in there that's kind of expensive. Well, it picked up the day after the discussion of no more secrets, no more lies. It picked up her packing up her car and driving out.
Oh.
And it was obvious that she was not coming back. I mean, she packed up her car fully. Um, she left some stuff there because she probably figured she wasn't going to be. It wasn't going to take that long for me to just cave. I was not in the caving mood at that point. Um, so when it came time for the divorce proceedings to determine the date of separation, I have this video. And her attorney says, "Well, this isn't admissible in court." It's like, yes, it is. And it's time stamped. So here's the day that everything ended, that she walked out, she deserted him.
Mhm.
So
So,
that was one of the things. Another was that all of the paperwork from her bank account and such was still coming to the house, and it had my name on it as well. So therefore, I'd open it and I'd get it ready for her to do her balance stuff. But I had access to the bank account information. And turns out I'm a pretty good forensic accountant.
it seems like every celebrity has access to GLP-1s these days, but what about the rest of us? Now you don't need to be rich or famous to access personalized, tailored weight loss solutions just for you. Through Hers, you can take control of your health. Hers is changing women's healthcare by providing access to holistic weight loss solutions, including GLP-1 treatments with the same active ingredients as Ozempic and Wegovy, oral medication kits, and more. You'll connect with a medical provider who will develop a plan based on your needs. And if prescribed, your medication is included as part of a doctor-designed weight loss program, complete with ongoing care, online support, all at no additional cost. Plans start at just $199 a month with a 12-month subscription, paid up front, and your treatment ships directly to your door. So if you've been struggling with weight loss and you want to find the right solution just for you, start your free online visit today at forhers.com/negotiate. That's forhers.com/negotiate for your personalized weight loss treatment options. Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded programs are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions apply. Wegovy and Ozempic are not compounded. So tell me more about how you use the methods and the sleigh method to get where you wanted to go.
Well, the strategy was, okay, I realized that she was probably going to lie, and she did lie almost the whole thing. She also would lie by omission. Her divorce uh, her divorce request didn't include any of her assets. It only included mine.
Of course.
Um, and then when I did the requirements, and I did pass the information for the attorney off to my advising attorney. I had an advising attorney. I already knew that I was dealing with someone who had a toxic personality and could probably stretch this out for a while. And I could do some of my own paralegal stuff.
And so, did the program help you with all of that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was able to, one, I had the camera footage, which I instantly archived so I would not lose it. I went through paperwork that was to both of us, so it should be something that I would know about. I went through, leverage was just documenting everything, just literally documenting everything that had been going on. And then by giving this information to my attorney, she was able to work through and let me know that, hey, there's going to be some other things that are going to happen along this line, and going, yes, I know. Or I would remind her, hey, they're probably going to do some things such as fail to respond to interrogatories and fail to provide accurate information.
Right. And what happens with lawyers is that when all of that happens, they look to the client to say, how should I respond?
Well, I've dealt with intellectual property law for almost my entire career. I speak some legalese. I can look at a contract and understand what it says. So when the attorney would look at me and go, okay, well, what do you think we need to do? And I would go, well, we need to do this, this, this. And she'd go, well, what about this? And I didn't know that. So it's a good thing I have you as an advising attorney, so you can tell me these things. So I had all of my paperwork ready to go.
I'll admit it, I'm that person. I'm the one the night before a birthday, an anniversary, or any kind of special occasion, I'm frantically searching the aisles for the right card, and one that doesn't seem kind of corny or cringeworthy. You know the struggle, right? But then I found Moonpig. It's a total game changer. They have tons of adorable, funny, even heartfelt designs ready to go, and you can even personalize them, which is super cool. You can even upload your favorite photos or tweak the text to make it uniquely you. And they'll even suggest clever messages if you're feeling stuck. Oh, and no more forgetting birthdays or scrambling for addresses. Moonpig lets you save everything in one place and even sends you reminders. Plus, they've got the opportunity to upload gift cards from all your favorite places like Sephora or Starbucks, so you can really nail that perfect gift vibe. Once you've designed your card, they'll even mail it for you, or if you want to hand deliver it, they'll send it to you with a cool envelope. So guess what? This is your chance. Your first card is totally free. Just use the code FREE and go to moonpig.com/US/negotiate. Seriously, stop stressing and start impressing. Make someone's day with Moonpig. Try it right now. So good. Would you say that saved you money?
Oh, absolutely. Because, well, one, I could do a lot of the paralegal stuff myself. My attorney would read over every email I sent, and tell me, okay, take out this emotion, take out that emotion, take out that emotion, narrow it down so it's just the facts, and we'd send that over. And yeah, the her attorney is probably a very good attorney, but as an accountant, she's a very good attorney.
Yeah. And would you say that it saved you in emotional turmoil, like just knowing what to do?
Well, it helped because I was able to have one. I had something to do
Hmm.
that could get out the frustration I had with dealing with the attorney and with now my ex. Um, it gave me a lot of information about, oh, well, I know she's asking about this, but what she really is asking is not just that, but all of the supporting documents as well.
Yeah.
So it made it very, it was easier. Having an advising attorney as opposed to representing attorney um, made my job a little bit tougher,
Hmm.
but at the same time, it was kind of fun in kind of a sick sort of way of going through and, oh, well, you had X amount in your account at such and such a time, and now you've got Y amount in that account. Where did that money come from?
Hmm. And so, did you get the result that you wanted?
Well, I would say that I came out a lot better than I probably would have had I not had your program where I knew what kinds of things I was going to need to provide.
Hmm.
I can boil it down to in one of our last mediations, uh, um, we were talking about attorney's fees, and she wanted about $45,000 in
Hmm.
attorney's fees over a period of time. And I had spent far less than that. And I was willing to give her about not even a third of that, maybe even a quarter of that. And the mediator looked at it, and of course her attorney was very adamant. Look, these are the fees that we've incurred and are going to incur to finish off this divorce. And I just responded back, well, it took me 3 times to get any kind of information about her actual assets. And I'm still not sure that I've got a complete picture of her assets, but I don't want to go through anymore. And this is how much it's cost me to do it. And this is how much I'm willing to pay, which was about what I had paid to my attorney.
And that was like a third or a quarter?
It was about a third of what she was asking for. And the mediator looked at it and went, "Can you bump it up to an even number, an even $1,000?" It was like $200 or $300 difference. I went, "I can do that." As soon as that happened, boy, her attorney started to move things quickly.
Hmm. Well,
But
that is so
point,
good.
that point of being able to sit there and have all of the documentation, all of the information that I had came right out of the Slate program.
Oh, so good. Love that. Love that. And now you're done
I'm done.
and you were able to
Uh,
settle out of court.
we were able to settle out of court. The divorce was final December 20th of last year. It took over a year, but it was about a year when we had our final mediation, and she got about a third of the attorney's fees they were asking for.
Mm.
And from that point on, I mean, everything moved quickly. It was like, oh, okay, there's not going to be the gravy train has ended. Therefore, I'm going to finish up so I don't spend more money.
Oh, this is so good. It's really, really interesting because I've never heard it put in this particular term before, where, but of course, you're supposed to have access to equal counsel and you're supposed to be able to have equal amounts that you can spend. And the fact that you had the program, and so it caused you to spend a third of what she had spent, um, helped you to defend and actually be on the offensive of where it came to not having to pay her fees. So that's so interesting. I love that.
Well,
And and then
I'm
also,
sorry.
no, I was just going to say, and also having that leverage piece because you had everything documented. You had all your supporting documentation for each piece of documentation as well. And so that helped you because she's like, I don't have anywhere to move. You know, they have to be so squeezed to be incentivized. And so that's so great.
Well, it gets better than that too, because it was a California divorce. I
Hmm.
make more money than she does. She should be making more money than I am, but I'm not going to complain about that. But because I moved out of California to another state that doesn't have income tax, I took a pay cut.
Hmm.
The pay cut was substantial, but because I didn't have California income tax to pay on my income, and costs of things here are less, um, it was I'm ending up being about the same
Hmm.
um, lifestyle,
Hmm.
maybe just a little bit better.
Hmm.
Well, when we set up the spousal support, the temporary spousal support for another year, um, the and at that time it was 2.5 years roughly. Um, they didn't. I explained I was going to take a pay cut, and they kind of just okay, well, whatever. You're getting bonuses and extra incentives from your job. So, you're still going to make more than the allowance that we've given you. Well, this year she's going to owe me because between my income taking a cut and the fact that I have to pay a higher percentage on smaller amounts than the larger amount for the annual, which is a lower percentage. I will have actually paid all of my Smith Ostler. You're probably familiar with that. I have caught up on all of my Smith Ostler on the quarterly basis, which means my annual amount that I owe her is
Oh my goodness.
actually negative, but it's zero.
Wow. That's amazing. And that's so incredible. And that must make her so angry, right?
Well, she hasn't seen that yet, and she might or might not hear about it from this, but you know, um, I gave them every opportunity to adjust things for where I live now, and they refused them. They refused every single one.
Mm. Wow. Well, of course they do. Of course they do. Because that's what they do. They can
Mhm.
only see right what's in front of their face. They don't look at impact, long game.
And and I know that this will be a little bit of a biblical perspective, but I found myself being very much in the role of David in his battle with Saul.
Hmm.
Every time she meant something for evil, she gave me 57 days to get out of the house. So I had to find a mover, had to find a house. Um, she took the 7 passenger SUV, which so she had a car when she was in California. Okay, whatever. Um, well, she took the SUV. I ended up going to a dealership, looked at a pickup that I liked the pickup, didn't like the color. They said, "Oh, well, there's none within 100 miles." They I said, just try looking nationwide. 3 within 100 miles.
Oh,
All 3 dealerships that this dealership had worked with before. And then the kicker, before they could call that dealership, one of those dealerships called them and said, "You have a car we want. What do we have that you want?"
Oh my goodness. Of course.
And 4 days before flew out to visit my daughter and go house hunting, the house that I'm in today went on the marketplace. It was empty, could do quick close. I could move from the other house to this house without paying for any storage.
Wow. So looking back on the on your journey, what would you say to yourself at the beginning of this struggle?
You can do it. You,
Mm.
you, it's going to be painful, but you can do it.
Yeah, so for people who are in a similar situation, maybe they're feeling stuck, maybe they're feeling unsure how to move forward, what would you say to them?
You were a strong person before. The reason why someone who, like a narcissist, picked you is because they need you. You don't need them.
That's so true. I always say that they're more afraid of you than you are of them, and that they didn't attach themselves to you because you have so little value. They attached themselves to you because you have so much.
It goes back to my discussion with her about no lies and no secrets. She was a deer in the headlights. She was just,
Yeah, that's right.
I mean,
Exactly.
you can't see it on audio, but you can see it on video. Just her eyes went big, her mouth just kind of dropped open. It's like, I've never seen this. Yes, you had seen this side of me before. That's what attracted you to me, but you'd never seen it directed at you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, what's one action that you would tell people if they came to you and said, "What's one thing I could do today?" What would you say to them?
Be kind to yourself. Forgive yourself. You're not you're not in it because you didn't see what was there. You're in that because they're masters of deception.
Mm-hmm.
They hid that aspect of themselves from you. Forgive yourself for that because even trained therapists don't see it.
So true. Most trained therapists, most lawyers don't understand narcissism.
That's very true. That my advising attorney had been through a narcissistic divorce.
Mm.
And she eventually just said, I can't deal with this. She hired a divorce attorney.
No, the attorney had to hire a divorce attorney.
I
Oh,
understand that. You know,
oh yes,
it's,
no, I do too. Believe me. It's
you
sort of
can't,
like, you can't, you just can't be, you don't want to be a surgeon doing surgery on yourself, right?
well, I have had some experience dealing with emergencies, including with my late wife. And I know that I can separate that emotion from the action that needs to be done.
Hmm.
And my attorney was there to provide that reminder. Hey, you need to focus on the action, not the emotion.
So for people who are in a situation like yours, what would you say about the SLAY program?
And it was absolutely vital. Um, it provided a framework for me to work with my attorney, to work with her attorney, even, and with the court provided mediators. I came in prepared,
Hmm.
sometimes even more prepared than her attorney, because I had both my paperwork and the paperwork that she was going to use.
Hmm. And paid a third of the fees.
Less than a third of the fees.
Amazing. Amazing. So I really want to thank you for sharing your journey today and being willing to step forward. I just want to acknowledge you for that because, so many people feel stuck, despair, alone, isolated, drained, like their soul is being sucked from their body. And to see you now where you're thriving, you're living in Tennessee, you're healing, you're moving on. Before we even got on camera, you were talking about a new chapter in your life, potentially even getting ready to step into the dating pool again and thinking about life. So there is life after this.
Very much so. It was a painful time to go through, but as I related it to David and Saul, David and Saul was always trying to get David, but God would move David aside, out of the way, or block Saul or something.
Yeah. So I love that. And I just want to thank you. And for anybody who is feeling stuck or feeling like you just don't know even where to go, my Slay program, you can go to slayyournegotiation.com to read more about it or to join slay.com to go ahead and get it for yourself and get started so that you can take back your power and take back your life, just like Glenn has done. So thank you so much, Glenn. I appreciate you. And I wish you so much luck going forward in your new life, your new future, your new beginning.
Thank you, and thank you again for the program and the not just the legal program, but the whole narcissist negotiation program.
Mm, thank you.